Hello, we are ReelyReviews, and today we are reviewing Against the Dark, starring
Steven Seagal.
Everybody's favourite action star.
Absolutely.
Nobody's favourite action star.
No, nobody's favourite action star. This will be the first in hopefully a long-running segment we've got going on, which we might call Seagal segments, something along those lines.
Yeah. Where we look at his good films, his okay films, his hilarious films, and ones like this which are complete
garbage.
Complete.
In other words, we're kind of looking at it in chronological order. So the good ones, the bad ones, and then the really shit ones.
Yeah.
Sums them up, really.
Yeah. So, do you want to read the blurb?
Yes, I will.
The synopsis?
Well, we're going to do a brief summary of the film, but I mean, the problems begin with this film, I would say, with the blurb. In fact, the first word on the blurb: Katana Master Taggart. Now, I mean, I'm no expert in Japanese martial arts or whatever, but surely it should be katana if they're talking about the Japanese, like, samurai sword or whatever. I mean, that's just the first thing to come on. And they might even spell Taggart wrong. Surely Taggart should be like 2 G's or whatever.
You think it could be Cantina?
Ah, yeah.
Because Steven Seagal spends a lot of time
there.
In the canteen eating.
He's definitely a master of the cantina.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, he leads a special ops squad of ex-military vigilantes on a massacre mission. Their target: vampires.
Vampire zombies. They weren't sure which they wanted to use, so they basically...
They thought, fuck it, let's do a bit of both.
They meshed them together and made...
Yeah. On the post-apocalyptic globe, this film is set in a post-apocalyptic world, but it just doesn't... No innovative things there whatsoever. Your bog-standard apocalypse survival kind of story, you know. Suck driver, bloodthirsty vampire / zombies. A few remaining survivors trapped in an infected hospital. Now, hospitals, I mean, that is kind of a key theme with horror films, we should say.
Well, I've noticed a lot of these lower budget kind of films, they seem to be set not just in hospitals, but what it looks to be is the same hospital. This film, along with Mimic 2, which is shit, Heartstopper, it's not great, what else? Diary of the Dead, they all look like they're set in this kind of hospital. In Romania.
Or wherever they set
wherever it's cheapest to film.
Yeah. They probably only had enough money for, like, you know, like a couple of sandwiches for the cast or whatever.
Or 12 for Steven Seagal.
Or 12 for Steven Seagal.
And speaking of hospitals, this is a Steven Seagal film. It was probably filmed there because chances are he could keel over at any minute. So
yeah, definitely.
It's an hour and a half long, so we kind of went into this thinking this will be an easy watch. An hour and a half, that's nothing. How wrong we were. It was really tough to sit through this. In fact, he left early. I did. I left with a quarter of the film to go, and I left Malloy here to suffer with by himself, shall we say. And suffer I did. This was at a time when I didn't have a DVD player or Blu-ray player, so I was being forced to watch this on my Xbox. And I think quite a known fact with the Xbox, especially when it's July, it gets quite hot. And my room, along with watching this horrible film, I literally wanted to just die. It was horrible. In fact, you've actually reminded me. I thought you were going to talk about some of the filmmaking techniques this film used, but one which particularly caught our attention. It was actually during scenes where they wanted it to be pitch black. Do you remember this? Like they had, it went really dark, but then all of a sudden this sort of opaque black square it turned up, and it just looked really terrible, didn't it? Yeah, I kept thinking that maybe the Xbox was like dying on us because it didn't look like a decent transition. I thought like maybe the Xbox had just turned itself off. Yeah. But anyway, we have to move on to the main star of this feature. Well, I say main star, he's only in it for... I'd say he's in it for 5 minutes, and every scene he's in, all he does is walk. And he's probably using a stunt double for that. Yeah. So, I mean, and you know, we say, there's a saying, an old adage that black makes you look thin. Not in the case of Steven Seagal, no. In fact, it actually probably makes him look a little bit more enormous. And he also is... The older he gets, the more like he has a striking resemblance to Gene Simmons. Yeah. I think it's the hair. It's got to be the hair. His hair doesn't look
real. It's a weird hair.
Definitely.
But what would you give this film out of 5 bloated Steven Seagal heads?
Now out of 5 bloated Steven Seagal heads, I would actually give it 2 Steven Seagal bloated heads.
And why is that?
Well, I mean, it would be a 1 if not for only one factor in this film. I've got to say, because basically it's mostly focusing on the survivors in a kind of Walking Dead kind of fashion. You know, they're traipsing through the hospital trying to get out of here to escape the vampire pseudo-zombies, whatever we could call them.
Yeah.
But there's one character out of Steven Seagal's little Bam Margera kind of entourage, I'll get to that later, who's actually quite a badass. And we like to call him Budget Dwayne Johnson.
He does look slightly like Dwayne Johnson, although not nearly as cool as Dwayne Johnson.
No, but it'll do. You know, he's a lot cooler than Steven Seagal was in this film.
So you were saying about
Steven Seagal, who tries to be a badass in this film but fails miserably.
So
Budget Dwayne Johnson actually does it better.
So you were saying about the Bam Margera entourage.
Yes. This comes from I've recently got back from Sonosphere 2014, and the worst band of the weekend, I would say. Band is a very loose term, I have to add. Bam Margera's Fuckface Unstoppable. Yeah, I know.
Great
name for a band. And basically, it wasn't just Bam, because he brought his friends with him, his little mates, his little sad kind of entourage.
Like Budget Dwayne Johnson.
Like Budget Dwayne
Johnson. Or as we like to call him, Brandon Novak.
Oh yeah, Novak was there, and he was just completely nude. He had like these fishnet things in which you could clearly see his dick through, and a bottle of wine in his other hand.
Good Lord.
He had his brother, he had a bunch of tramps with beards, and his wife, I think, or his girlfriend or something, but she was like really scantily clad. But I mean, long story short, it just felt really sad. It felt like I was witnessing a sort of derailment of a guy's career, which is kind of exactly what we were witnessing here with Steven Seagal. So Steven Seagal is the Bam Margera of the action hero world, shall we say.
Now, I'm not sure if Budget Dwayne Johnson means that this film can get a 2 out of the bloated Steven Seagal head chart. I'm going to give it a 1, because it was awful.
But at least Steven Seagal wasn't dubbed in this one.
Well, I would have given it half a Steven Seagal bloated head, but I'm going to give it 1 because, yeah, he wasn't dubbed. But the film was still awful.
Again, in the forthcoming couple of weeks or whatever, when we do more of these hideous Steven Seagal pictures, we will cover his dubbing, you know.
Yeah.
And how they will try to fit him into the ADR booth. Because he's so massive.
He just doesn't use it. He's too lazy to, like, when people say, oh, come on, Steve, we need to, like, re-record this because, you know, we can't hear your voice that well. Because he does talk really quietly as well.
But, I mean, honestly, like, all he does in this film is just walk and wear black. And he's half in silhouette, you know. The whole time. It's just, it's ridiculous.
So, Against the Dark, complete shit.
Yeah, I have to agree. Yeah.
Complete shit. In fact, fuck it. I don't want that film. I don't want that film in my collection anymore.
No, we are so done with this film. We will not recommend it under any circumstances.
No, so do not watch it. Anyway, thank you for watching.
We have been ReelyReviews, and we will see you
next
on the
time.
other side. Yeah.
Yeah, other side. Next time.
Ciao. Whatever. Ciao.
Yo.